Ewing and Hodge is back for another round of all things music. I'm Emily Ewing and I'm joined by the awesome Carol Hodge, and we are joined by two very special guests who together have 30 years joint experience in the music industry, and they have created a company that specialises in artist management, performance musicianship, music business, artist development and career coaching. It's the founder of the Artist Guides, James Brister and Sean McDermott.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow,
Thank
you've
you
done your
for being
research.
here. I did.
Yes.
But yeah, just tell us how you both met and decided that the Artist Guides was something that you wanted to create.
Wow.
Shall I go?
You go first if you want, James. Go on then.
Shall I? Shall I? 'Cause
Yeah.
I might have a cough in a minute. Sorry, everyone. I've got a cold. Thank you. Sean and I worked together many a moon ago. We still do, obviously, at a music university in northwest London. Sean was heading up admissions and generally meeting many artists, creatives, musicians who wish to study and develop themselves and progress in that nature. And I was doing the industry liaison side of things. So kind of looking after the students in artist development, writer, producer development, musician development, all that kind of stuff. And we got on really well. We enjoyed a high five now and again. And shall I kind of segue into you there, Sean? You could probably do the next bit, mate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that was about 15 years ago we started working together.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And then about 10 years ago, we thought we'd start doing management, basically because there were just so many talented people out there. And we just loved music. That's what we wanted to get into. So we started doing some management. We thought we could have a go at that. We were good at it. We could have a go. And we managed our first artist. That was about 10 years ago, I think. And we managed a few. We built a roster since then. And the artist management has led us on to what we've been doing in the last few years. We still do artist management, by the way, but the Artist Guides, which we kind of started just before COVID hit, unfortunately. And basically because we're noticing that there are so many artists out there who have to do so much on their own now before the industry pays any attention to them. So they have to develop themselves and work on their music and then try and release music and then promote music on top of that. And it's quite an overwhelming task, really. I don't think many of them really sort of know their way around the industry, and they operate in isolation. That's the problem. They operate in isolation. So it's very easy for them to kind of just feel they're doing the right thing, work really hard at it, but not really get anywhere. And I think we started doing coaching and we're noticing the same questions and the same issues coming up all the time. And that's kind of where the Artist Guys grew from. So it started with artist management, really. And then we've used the skills of the artist management that we've, accumulated over these last 10 years or so. And we realised actually artists need to know all this stuff because they're trying to release music. And what we're finding is they're looking for marketing information. So they're all out there searching for, how do I get on Spotify playlists? And how do I promote myself to get on radio and this kind of thing? But they're not really thinking about the development and the strategy of releasing. So that's kind of where it's come from.
So what are some of the key things that like anyone starting out at any age, and how would they... A couple of points that you have to grow a fan base. They've got music ready to go. They've got a Facebook page. What's next?
Well, do you know what? I think that the vast majority of artists that we've met and worked with aren't actually ready for that.
Oh.
So often the conversation is, this is a classic thing, right? An artist comes, I've got a song to release. Woo! It's a banger. It's amazing. Brilliant. Can you play me single 2, 3, 4 and 5, please? What's that? I haven't written them yet. It's fine. Chill. Go and experiment. Go and collaborate if that's part of your thing. Go and explore different inspirations, aspirations, all that kind of thing, musically, creatively. And really kind of like just hone your craft, develop your craft, evolve your craft of the art of your songwriting and your artistry more widely. And then come back when you've got 25, 30 songs and pick 5 that work together. And I can't tell you how often that kind of conversation occurs with, I want to go high, 95%, genuinely, 95% of the artists that we've met with over the years, many years, seemingly. God, it didn't think it was as long as that, but yeah, here we go. But, this sounds like a throwaway comment, but we've met with like nearly 3,000 artists over the years. That's quite a lot of independent artists who have kind of had the privilege of meeting with and supporting and guiding and helping and learning from as well. It's important. But that music thing, like, because of the environment that we're in, social media and stuff like that, and this perception of instantaneous success, it's created this, if I just release music, I'm going to build this success. But like, there's so many beautiful moments before that where you don't have the pressure of releasing music. You just have the enjoyment. You should have the enjoyment of experimentation, of really like delving into what is your art, who are you as an artist, and explore it. Should be fun. Like that. That's the most important bit, because all the releasing stuff and all that other stuff, if the music doesn't have depth in terms of number of songs and actual quality, forget about it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're not ready. Or you might release 4 singles over 3 years, and then when you're finally at that point when you've got a body of work, go, I need to take all that down. Yeah, you do.
Do you know,
should just focus on the music.
Yeah, it's quite funny that idea of so many people wanting to run before they can walk. Because I've noticed something quite a lot recently. I mean, I'm always looking for new music. I'm always looking for recommendations. And whenever I'm chatting to someone and they say, oh, have you heard so-and-so? I'll go to my Spotify and I'll follow them. And then what I like to do is find their latest album and save that so I can listen to it. But so many people don't even have an album. They've just got maybe like 3 or 4 singles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I'm old. I'm 40 compared to... I'm old, but I'm old compared to a lot of people.
You're not old
A lot
compared
of
to
pop
us, so
artists, you know. But yeah, I kind of... What's your take on that? Is it all about just keep releasing singles on Spotify? Is it about doing an EP? Is it doing an album? What do you think is working at the moment?
It changes all the time, to be honest with you. I mean, when we first started management, Spotify wasn't even really a thing. Now look at it. It dominates the industry. Yeah, it did exist, but it wasn't something that everyone was using as a key part of their strategy when they're releasing music. So I think there's a pressure, generally speaking, that artists feel that they just need to do as much as possible, release things, content, and all these words that they hear about stuff. It's like you can't have too much content and just, keep hammering everybody on Facebook and Instagram. Well, Facebook's dying away a bit, but, Instagram and TikTok now and so on. Yeah. And I think it feels overwhelming that they've just got to keep doing all this stuff all the time and putting singles out, everything you can do, even people releasing demos and things, onto their Spotify profiles. So I think where we've come from is very much about strategy. It's like it takes a lot of work to get the attention of people, a bit like you just mentioned yourself there, Carol, in that you go to check out someone's Spotify profile and there's nothing sticky to make you want to stay and get into the artist, that's going to make you want to really engage with an album. It just becomes one song you've heard and that's it. It's disposable, really. So from where we are, we believe in building that strategy so there's a body of work that someone can actually kind of get into, a listener can kind of engage with and will be, stick around and sort of hook into the artist a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, that is... Go on, James.
No, I think you're spot on, mate. I think there's something to be said as well. Like, at some point when you've got this body of work, it's EP, whatever, 5 tracks, 6 tracks, like, there is a requirement of some detachment, because it does then become your promotional set of products. Each single, you release singles because that's the mechanism and the vehicle in which to penetrate promotional entities and spaces in online, human beings who actually, decide to create stuff or play stuff on radio and all that kind of stuff. They're the mechanism in which you build awareness and you grow through that kind of connectivity and that engagement. But human beings don't become a fan until, you rightly said, Carol, until there is a body of work, an artistic presentation and proposition. So singles really truly are simply a promotional mechanism, not to cheapen the music, whatever. I don't want anyone to take away like it's just a promotional. It's not, because they still then form at the end that body of work, that artistic proposition. So it's like, it is a combination of the two elements to consider. But I quite like the fact that, do you know what? Very little's actually changed forever since the beginning of artistic time, that humans want to engage with art, and a single isn't art a single becomes piece of a much bigger proposition of art. So it's that sort of thing, really. Like, singles, very important, incredibly important in the marketplace, if you will, today. But it hasn't eroded that importance of depth of art.
But speaking about marketing, obviously how people consume music is very different. I've also noticed it with musicians as well. So no musicians come after me for saying this. It's almost like they drop a song and that's it. There's no promotion. So some people have seen, not everybody, there are some people, that are but they kind of just let it, but they're sort of waiting for something to happen. There's no radio play. They don't get, obviously ads, that can be a bit hit and miss sometimes. But what's your opinion on that?
It requires a campaign, and the campaign starts way before you release anything. And I think that's the bit where we notice that musicians don't quite get on it with that sense. So they will come and say, I've released a song, how can I get on Spotify playlists? It's like you're already 8 weeks too late to even think about it. That's how it seems.
Whoops.
And even then, it's sort of like, have you even thought about the music you're releasing? And then you need to go back months to get your music right. So that's how we start, really, is right at the beginning is the formation of the music. But once you get to release, which is another reason why singles are important at the moment, is because one single isn't going to do it for you. Clearly, obviously, one single on a Spotify profile, it's not enough. It's not sticky. It's not engaging. But also, you need a bit of momentum. So you need something, for one single, a campaign around that, building up to its releasing, and then a continual post-release campaign, which continues in your efforts to try to get some attention from it. And then you want any success you have from that, you're using that to help you bolster your campaign efforts on your second single, which is going to come following along like 2 months later, or not even that. The time periods keep getting shorter as this streaming age continues, but roughly about 2 months later, you want your second single out, and you want a massive campaign. And you can talk about all the good things you've achieved with your first single in the second, and so on. And you want to build that. That's kind of why we want 5-6 singles really in a row, one after the other over for a 1 year period, so that by the time you get to your 5th or 6th single and you're dropping an EP, say, as a debut artist, you've actually got some momentum. All individually, it's quite difficult just to do one single and disappear and come back and do another one. They have to all build on top of each other. So again, that's what it is, singles, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each single has its own story, but then as Sean rightly said, as you release more singles, you start to pinch the story as the artist. So the artist starts to build story, but one single doesn't build an artist story. There's no narrative around it at all. So that's kind of why it's useful. Every little kind of win or success from each single needs to be valued, because it's feeding into the artist story every time. And I think, again, not to put everything at social media's door, but again, there's this perception that's been created that if your single doesn't go massive and get on every other playlist going, that you've failed. But that's not true. And there's another thing on this about expectation. Like artists, again, that previous point about social media and, that kind of perception that's been created falsely, I think. But expectation, therefore, has accelerated so that if you're expecting your single to get on every other Spotify editorial playlist, you're going to be disappointed. And disappointment against high expectation leads to, sometimes pretty poor mental health, because it can affect that quite negatively, obviously, as it's well documented, we know. But if you have a low expectation purely because you're aware of the competitive landscape, doesn't mean you're in competition with another artist. I must beat them. It's not that. It's just that there are, I think, wonderfully, in a way, a real kind of, there's no barriers anymore. So there's lots of new artists, but it just means that there's a competitive landscape. But if your expectation is low because you know that, then every little thing you get, every win, every success, every support you get, like really kind of that can move you and power you on as opposed to disappoint you.
That's a really beautiful way of looking at it. I read recently that and this statistic really changed my opinion of Spotify anyway. Apparently over 30,000 new songs are put on Spotify every day.
Yeah,
and
you
I
need
just
to double
thought,
that, Carol.
double it. Is it double it now?
60,000 a day.
60,000, right? So, you know what I mean? Like you say, if
Exactly.
even like 10 people listen to your track, that's a win, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's something else like, sorry, Sean. Do you want to go, mate?
No, go on. That's
I'm just
fine.
keep waffling on. I'm gonna bring myself in a second. Back to the expectation thing, because I think this is important. It's like a lot of our kind of conversation nowadays with artists is about repurposing where you're focusing in terms of what are you in control of. You can't control whether Spotify playlist your music. You can't. You can influence a little bit through the pitching form, through some independent playlists. You know, even that's changing, but you can kind of maybe get your track on some independent playlists. But you are in control of the messaging you send out, the content you create around, relevantly, by the way, around your music, and how you choose to engage anyone who is showing genuine interest in you and your music. I think a lot of the times artists kind of gloss over just how much effort it takes from an individual, a listener, to choose to listen to your music, to choose to find you on socials, to choose to comment. That chain of events is a lot of effort in the grand scheme of things. And when an artist just says, thank you, in response, it's not enough. That doesn't bring them into your fold. That's not engaging. It's not connecting. It's not valuable enough. It's not kind of considered importantly enough. So that's the sort of thing you can be in control of as an artist, is that engagement and that reaching individuals one person at a time, because over time that swells to quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there because I can waffle on.
I was going to ask about why. I mean, I can take a guess as to why. That numbers are so important to even approaching management. I think companies are very into followers now. And as a musician, sometimes I find that a bit discouraging, because I remember applying something for only a couple of weeks ago and they wanted to know your followers. And it's like, well, what's that got to do with the song? So from your perspective, why is that so important?
I guess the number of followers is an indicator of sorts, depending on what it is that they're trying to profit from. You've got to think, people are running businesses. So what do they want? They want some sort of a return if they're going to invest their time and money into something. At the end of the day, it is a music business. And it is an indicator. So if people are thinking, are you going to sell tickets to a show? Or are you, is it worth putting their money in? Is anyone actually going to listen to you and check you out? It is an indicator. It's not the only one, though. I mean, it's just one part of the picture for people. Because you can have a lot of streams, for example, and have very low numbers of followers because you just sat on a big sort of background playlist somewhere and you're just clocking up hundreds of thousands of streams here and there, even millions sometimes. And then you go and look at the followers and they've got 150 followers and you think, well, hang on, that's not going to translate, is it? Because if that person tried to go on tour, for example, no one's going to be buying a ticket. Yeah. Whereas if that person's got 100,000 followers and only 1 million streams, well, that person's quite interesting. So there's just different metrics, I think, that the industry uses, and depending on what sector of the industry they're in, will depend on kind of what they look at. So it is important. I mean, it does show that people are engaging with you. To follow you, like as James says, to actually follow somebody, it means something, doesn't it? Because there's so much information, there's so many things trying to get your attention online that to actually to engage with an artist in some way and follow them, it does mean something. So I think it's a metric, isn't it? But it's only one measurement.
But it's that engagement. Like, so like A&R friends in labels, not to sound like a total Egypt, but they are focusing as much on. It depends on the type of artist and type of music, by the way, as well. That's another consideration. But like, it's the engagement level. Like, if there's an artist up and coming with 2,500 followers on Instagram, but if you go on their posts and it's peppered with conversation, that is a really strong indicator that there is connectivity going on. And connectivity can be expanded, escalated, and exploded. It's because it means that there is some interest there that's significant. Just to touch on your sync thing as well. I think, Emily, that it's also dependent on the project. So here's a little tip. The people to connect with are music supervisors. Sync agencies, they're good and bad in equal measure. Some just collect big catalogues, want loads of songs on. Others are very curated and more purposeful and strategic in who they're representing. But music supervisors, anyone can connect with them. LinkedIn, go and search for loads, find their website, find their contact details, off you go. They're as near as damn it the decision makers for where syncs are placed. So again, you'll find some that might have a project that does require some social media presence of significance because it's relevant to the project that they've been tasked with. Others don't care. The most of them is still about, does this piece of music fit this scene? So delve deep.
A lot of those music supervisors tend to use Spotify. A new word. Tend to use Spotify to delve into kind of.
They can, yeah.
What they're looking for as well. Because I've often been told, don't approach music supervisors. Don't do it.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah, they'll find you, and then, but then it's obviously like you're saying, there's the side of it where it's like, well, no, you need to kind of put in the work and make a relationship almost with
relationships.
That's the word. That's the word
we
build
on relationships. No, it's brilliant. But people bang about network. Like me, you go on LinkedIn, you're networked to everyone if you want to be. But relationships are what become fruitful. And it only actually takes one music supervisor to go, oh no, I really love this piece of music. It suits this project I've got going on really well that I really need a piece of music for. Can you send me the WAV file and the backing track? Always have a backing track if you're doing sync, always. And then you could be off, and that could be your first sync done, and you could change. It could help to change things. It very rarely does anything significant, like just one sync makes it all change. That's really rare, actually. But it's finding your tribe and being proactive. That's important.
Well, of course, I came across you guys on TikTok, the Artist Guides, if you want to follow them. A bit of promo for you there.
Thank you.
And one of the first videos that I saw was where you're talking about the EPK. And it was really interesting timing because I had a conversation the night prior. You must have an EPK. And I was always kind of like, I'm not sure about that. And James, it was you, and you were going, no, it's about the one sheet. So could you tell us a little bit about why it's kind of the one sheet and not a big EPK?
It's exactly that, Emily. Okay, and again, particularly for emerging artists, like you won't have enough to put into an EPK. Like, with the greatest respect, if your highlights so far are you made one Spotify playlist, you got 10,000 streams, and you've played, I don't know, you supported a slightly bigger artist to 250 people, that's brilliant, by the way. But that does not make an EPK, because with the greatest respect, people you would be sending an EPK to won't care. That's not the right sort of information they're going to be bothered about. Plus, it's a massive document normally. EPKs I've seen like some are 20 pages long. This industry they do not have to, they either are busy or very good at telling themselves they're busy. So, and actually mostly they are busy. So if you've got a one sheet, particularly if it's digital, so based in like, Canva you can do a link to it, you can update it, it's a live dynamic document, then it's a one click, one stop, boom. This is sort of stuff that I should care about, that's happened, linked to some photos. It's more instant. You've got to think about how to quickly impact someone, particularly if you're reaching out. So we say the industry, it doesn't just mean record labels and publishers. The industry is the promotional side as well, all like radio and blogs and that sort of stuff. Influencers either, dare I use that word. It's important. And I cannot tell you the last time I've been asked for an EPK from anyone. Like, it's years ago since I asked one. Now, when you've got a massive following and you have got lots of press already, an electronic press kit is meant to include the press that you've achieved. So if you've got like DIY, Line of Best Fit, The Guardian, all these big do a press kit, that's going to be worthwhile. But you should still also have a one sheet for that instantaneous.
Straight to the point.
Exactly.
I think, can I just pick up on that a little bit as well? Because I think it goes back to what you just mentioned earlier about relationships, when you said about communicating with people, Emily. And that there's two sides to it, really. There's obviously you're building a relationship with your listeners and trying to build that momentum and obviously increase your audience. But also, really, for emerging artists who are on their own, they don't normally even have management or anyone else on the team. It's about building a relationship with the music industry. It's a horrible word, but it's just like the music business and people that are in it and who you're trying to communicate with. You need to build a network of relationships, find those contacts. It's a big part of it that are relevant to you as well, not just big lists of random people, and sort of start reaching out to them. And then you've got to think about how you approach them. So this kind of goes back to kind of what James was saying. You know, if you want to start initially, say you found a playlist that feels really relevant to you and you managed to get the contact details of the playlist editor, or there's someone that's running a small blog somewhere. These are usually enthusiasts, music enthusiasts. They're not like running, it's not a full-time job for them even. So think about how you're approaching them. They don't want a big load of information and look what I've done and I've achieved all this when you haven't really. You're sort of emerging. Just be proud of who you are and what you're doing and where you are in your journey, and just be honest and open and reach out and communicate as a human being with them. It's not about trying to impress people with fancy, pretend it's bigger than it is. I think that's the thing that I find quite when I see stuff like that, because obviously we get approached from management quite a lot and it comes through our inbox, and I see, like, I don't even open an attached press kit. I might click on the link if someone's linked me to a SoundCloud page just to quickly check out a tune. But I hate all the sort of big puffed up paragraphs about, they're going to change the world and, so I want to share my art with everybody and people have been waiting for me to come along. It's like, no, they haven't really, have they? Come on, it's just it's your second single. So it's just think about where you are in your journey. Just be honest to yourself and where you are. You haven't got to pretend. No one's expected to pretend that you're bigger than you are. It's totally fine. Just be real and be authentic. And just build those relationships as you go and build up your network of people that you're trying to reach out to.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go.
I was just going to say, what would you say? Because I'm about to release my 4th solo album, and I'm just kind of looking at my budget at the moment and debating the best thing to spend money on. I mean, obviously, there's like radio pluggers, press. I can't remember their name now. The people who promote to press.
Press people.
PR.
It's totally gone out of my head. And then obviously I want to get some good music videos made, and I've spent a lot of money on making the album sound brilliant, and I'm going to pay for the vinyl pressing and the CD pressing and everything. What do you think is most important for an independent artist who's sort of self-releasing? Where should the money go at this point in time?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
There's not one answer for every artist, is there? Go on, James, you crack on that one.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's dependent on type of artist, type of music, and your intention and objective with what you want to do with your music. Press is an interesting one. How do I count it? I wouldn't spend too much money on press because it's changed an awful lot. Again, depending on your style of music slightly, but blogs used to draw audience to you. And now they don't really, not en masse. There's not many blogs left that have big followerships that kind of use them as tastemakers to go, oh, I'm going to go and check this artist out because such and such has said so. It's changed a lot, mostly because, again, social media is peppered with suggestions and, various kind of profiles and people that are doing that anyway, dropping in stories, dropping on posts, that sort of thing. It can still be useful sometimes to fatten up your pitch to the DSP, Spotify, Apple, Google, all that kind of lot. But I wouldn't go press. I think if you've got a budget, a well-placed, well-strategized social media spend is useful. Now, don't just boost posts. Boost post does nothing. One of the best things to do is have a stratified advert. So you show your first advert to people, and then you have a second advert that would run that would only be shown to the people who have engaged the first one. So you funnel them basically down to whatever call to action you want, but it's stream something, buy something, follow something, join something, whatever that might be. That can be, if you've got budget, arguably the best place to spend that promotional budget. Videos again. Do you want to go to videos, Sean? Because you're going to say the same thing I am about videos.
Well, I'm going to probably say what you're going to say, which is don't spend too much money on videos.
Yes.
We generally see that artists see the video almost as an extension of the music. And so I think they tend to, independent artists tend to over focus and over budget on spending loads of money to want to make it look really good as possible. But the reality is, who's going to watch it? That's kind of, I don't know what size audience you already have, Carol, but I mean, for most independent artists, you're never going to get a financial return on the actual video. The YouTube isn't like Spotify is. It just does not have that kind of sort of, it's not geared up for music and for help promoting your music in that way. If you're a big artist and you're looking for billions of streams, or views, I should say, on YouTube, that's a whole different world. People are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on videos. But for an independent artist, I mean, it's fine. It's good to have a video. So I wouldn't say don't have videos, because it is really useful visual content, especially to break up and chop about and use clips of it on your social media when you're posting things around the release and for promotions. It's good to have visuals, really good, but keep it cheap. That's what I'd say. Really simple. There's something that goes with the music. Don't see it as an extension of the quality of your music. The music's the most important part of it. The video is a secondary thing, unless you're really, again, can vary depending on the genre. If you're super pop, then it's important, or if you're really artistic, you're a really avant-garde kind of an artist, and actually visual art is really important to your brand in some way, then clearly you want to do something with the video. Otherwise, for most people, I'd say just keep it cheap. Is that what you'd say, James?
No, actually, you're right. YouTube about 4 years ago changed its algorithm drastically. So you might, if you've released videos yourself, you might have noticed how hard it is to grow organic views on it. That's purposeful, because they are a corporation and they want you to spend money to advertise your video to try to drive streams or views. Good Lord, they're interchangeable. And also because of platforms like TikTok and now Instagram going so video, and Facebook, well, whatever, they're kind of dying a death slowly, but Meta not so much. YouTube isn't even that platform that kind of distinction. It doesn't set itself out against the others anymore, because we've got a stream of it all day. If you want to, don't do it all day. Jeez Louise, on TikTok, scrolling, Instagram, But as Sean said, visual moving image is essential. It doesn't have to be a video, but it has to, kind of capture people. And also, just a quick one, make sure if you do any visualizer to release your stuff, make sure your name and your name of the song and the biggest part of the song was in the first 3 seconds of your visualizer. Because if it's not, people will move on. It's a terrifying statistical chart that my friend at Facebook
I've just done that with one of my videos. My name's in it, and I'm like, oh, I've got it right.
Yay, there you go.
Finally. So my other question was, on your website, theartistguides.net, you were running online courses for musicians to learn. Are they still available?
Definitely.
Take part in?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've just done another course, just came out last week. We've kind of sort of tried to do courses that separate out different parts of development. So the first one we did was really about getting the musical right for the artist before they even think about releasing anything, because that is really the first conversation we always have with coaching, and that's where these courses have come from. Really, it's just all the coaching, and it's just like it is the same conversations most of the time, certainly for the first few sessions with somebody, and then usually they're sort of like, oh, okay, whoa, that's sort of blown my mind now, all that stuff, and you better go away and do all that first. So it's like, well, let's just put this in a course, and I think it's more beneficial for someone to kind of just see the course and get stuck into it and realize just what is involved before you even think about releasing any music. And then we've just released a new one, which is about the campaign. So it's about getting yourself ready for a promotional campaign, a release campaign of a series of singles, like we've been talking about earlier, not just one single. And just building that momentum, what you need to do to create all the stuff that you need. I don't think many artists really fully understand all the bits that they need ready, from how to write a press release, how to write their biography. And I think obviously everyone has an idea that maybe these things even exist, but I don't think some artists that we work with are even aware that they kind of even need to do these types of things. And also we discuss about videos. Is it important to have a video when we talk about these kinds of things, and just what they need to do. And also creating, once you've got all the materials you need, the assets as we call them, the marketing assets ready, it's what do you do with it? Who are you going to send this all to? And how do you find these people? How do you find your market and your audience? And how do you begin to do that? So we really explore that on this new course, because that's quite a big thing as well. I think people just think you just send it to anybody or everybody. I've got a list of 10,000 people I'm going to send to everyone that I can get. But it's just like, no, it needs to be a bit more focused than that and relevant to you. Yeah, find your community. So, what artists... It's quite a sort of a detective work, isn't it, really? I mean, it's more your side of things, James, isn't it? But,
Detective James.
Yeah, finding the contacts, finding the market for the artist, what other artists are in their area, and then who's working with them, who's managing them, what labels are they messing about with, what promoters are they working with, and booking agents. And you can start finding, okay, right, so I've got a landscape of people here that might be interested in me. And obviously, they've all got an audience that also might be interested in me and what I'm doing. And it kind of begins there, really. And that's when that relationship building comes in, from finding that. So that's kind of what the next course is all about. It's just come out.
I think that's really important, sort of realising that, you're not a unique little snowflake. You're always going to be similar to somebody else, and kind of using that as a foot up, and just sort of looking at, well, how do they do things? How do they promote things? Who's managing them? Who's, what label are they on? And you can find 5 or 10 people like that, then you've got a whole kind of playing field to sort of work around as a starting point, at least.
Spot on, Carol.
Absolutely.
It's called mapping.
Was the term for it?
Mapping,
yeah. Doing something right,
there you go. You literally map out as it's not copying, because the unique thing is you and your music. Not to contradict at all, obviously you know that, but then you're dead right. It's finding that tribe, that artistic community. And also I think too few artists are generous enough in an authentic way with the music of their community that they're discovering. Share it, whack it on your stories if you hear a great song, tag it. Now, they might reshare it, great if they do, but don't do it for that reason. Do it for authenticity, because you genuinely love it. Because it kind of really sets out another layer of who you are, what you're about, all those kind of things that normal people, you're all normal, but listeners want to kind of find out and discover. It's important to kind of really show that you understand your community of artists. It really is.
More musicians need to support musicians as well, because we're all in a collective.
Absolutely.
I think, in my opinion. But I've got one last question, and it's a bit of a big one. Well, not really, but but where do you see the music industry going? Because obviously it's an ever-changing thing. It's not like it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. In your opinion, where do you think it's? Where do you think? The business is heading.
I'll go first one. Yeah. That is a massive question. I mean, I don't see any end to streaming dominating what's happening at the moment, and that's only going to continue, I believe. There is this resurgence of some vinyl purchasing going on, but I still think that will always be quite a niche type thing. So I think the recorded, I don't see it changing. If you're talking about sort of the next 5 to 10 years, I don't see a massive difference in the kind of trajectory that we got, where it's about live for income purposes for artists, and still trying to build that on Spotify and all the different streaming platforms. I think social media is just going to continue to become so much more integrated. I don't really think we can even quite really envisage what will happen. 10 years is a long time in the world of social media. I imagine there'll be new apps that we've not even conceived of or even can even imagine at the moment. Think how quick TikTok just took off, and just in the space of a few years, it's become the dominant app, isn't it, really, for artists. So I'd expect another one to come along in 3 or 4 years. Why not? It could do, couldn't it? By the time 10 years comes around, there could be another 4 or 5 of them. But I just think it's going to be so much more. Artists really are kind of expected, and I think will have to be so much more engaging in and giving of who they are and what their art is about. And I think people want more access I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for the artist or for the listeners particularly. It's very different from when I was younger, many years ago. The idea that you could communicate with the artist you really like, that would have been like a dream come true, really. I mean, now it's the reality, isn't it? But it's also the expectation. And I think if you don't participate in that, and not just participate, but even actively pursue it, I think you're going to be holding yourself back in some way. So I think you've got to give more of yourself and engage so much more in what you're doing, and possibly have to put out more music. It does seem to be going in that trend, whether that will keep going or not. And I know we spoke about, it's 5 or 6 singles and you go away and get your body of work done and you come back and do a few singles, and it's getting quicker and quicker all the time. And people are just putting out singles every 2 months and it just never ends, like an endless stream of singles. Again, it depends what genre you're in, but I don't see that slowing down anytime soon either. So whether that filters down to every genre and that's how it becomes and it's just constant, it almost seems a bit overwhelming, doesn't it, in that sense? But it's good. There's a good thing about it is I think it's easier for you to find your own audience, and that's what it's about. I think you can find your own crowd, someone that's into you. I don't think you necessarily need one gatekeeper to make it happen for you. I think you can exist and make a living as an artist without even going anywhere near anything mainstream at all, without even being noticed. And if only when someone checks you out, go, oh, okay, that person's doing pretty good there. They got that going on and they're selling tickets to this. And I think you find your own audience, and I think that's what it'll be about. James, what are you going to think? What do you reckon?
No, you're right. But another layer to this is Web3. Do you want Web3? So like Meta and stuff like that, where artists will perform virtually to a virtual crowd. Your ticket will become an NFT, non-fungible token, which will mean you're invested long-term in that artist forever and a day. And I mean, there are already artists and already companies buying up territory in Meta, in Web3 to effectively they're building venues.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So there's
that's Matrix.
It is a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been going on a while, but again, once that the virtual reality thing translate en masse to the population, which it will, that's become another territory of magnitude to explore. I mean, arguably, it's never ending. They've put barriers around it so they can monetize it for now, but that will be huge. Definitely won't feel comfortable for every artist, but some new artists coming through already are really starting to dominate that already, just for the niche of people who are engaging it, users who are engaging it quite deeply. But there's, it actually just means it's going to be another income stream and another layer of engagement. So depending how you choose to contextualize it, it'll either be more work, it will be more work, but also another, income stream, and artists who are getting on it sooner rather than later are going to be the ones benefiting. That word.
Come on, Carol, we can do it.
Well, that whole thing about the metaverse and like the potential for live performance in it, from what I can gather, it all comes down to that personal interaction. It comes into, people don't just want to watch a live stream of you. If, obviously it's a lot more complex than that once you get into like the Web3 concept, but it's like they want to be able to interact within that performance and be acknowledged and be part of it. And that's really exciting. Like you say, you've got a global infinite audience then. And if you do it well, then, you potentially, your entire fan base and your entire existence as an artist could just be in the metaverse.
Virtual.
It feels like a step up from the sort of the world of you get like a VIP ticket for your gig and you let your fans in to begin and we'll look at the sound check and meet you after, that kind of thing. It feels like it's another sort of an online step up from that where they could just, like you say, they get a lot more involved in your world. So it's not just, artists have been buying this stuff, haven't they? I think Snoop Dogg bought some property in one of the, I can't know which one it was he bought it in, but and he spent a lot of money and we're talking millions of dollars here. But the thing is, it's a bit like in the real world, when someone buys, invests a load of money and buys and builds something, an apartment in some expensive area, that raises the price because everyone else wants to be near to that, you see. And it creates these little areas within these virtual worlds where things are happening. And so everyone else wants to be on that bit there. And then you can sell your bit. It's all linked together with blockchain technology, isn't it? And
cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, and people are investing in this, and the prices of these things are going up. So there was a bit of a buying and selling. So from artist's point of view, you can sort of almost invest in yourself to a certain extent and try and, stake your area, can't you?
Yeah, there's also just on that blockchain. Sorry if we're running over, but that's exciting as well for songwriters, because blockchain is starting to, because it's been talked about a long time. Well, there's never been a way of accurately reporting where your songs have been used. It's all guesswork, rough guesswork. It is. It comes out in the wash. But blockchain allows for 100% accuracy of where your song or recording has been used. Now, if you extrapolate that and put it into the metaverse as well, again, you've got all that business going on. Your song might be playing in the background of a playlist in Snoop Dogg's bar or hotel. Oh. That's going to generate you money. So it's like, it's all these different avenues are exploding. It's exciting. I think that's how you contextualize it. I think it's exciting. Is it going to be without challenge? No, of course not. It's going to be challenging, but new frontiers are exciting.
It will change royalty collection as well, won't it? That's the other one last part about it. On a boring business point of view, is that it'll be instant, because at the moment, I'm sure you must get royalties coming from various places, but it takes a long time, sometimes a couple of years from the time that something was used.
Yeah.
And the idea is it's instant. Someone uses it, the code is recognised straight away, and it just goes straight to an account that you'd hold. This whole idea of PRS talking to another place in another territory, and all these PROs getting together and communicating who's done what and reporting to each other every 6 months will be a thing of the past, and that'll be a great thing, because it is very
Is that
cumbersome.
the project that Imogen Heap's spearheading?
She's spearheaded that for probably I reckon near 15 years.
Right,
she's probably been leading
wow.
on that. Yeah. But the technology here now, do you know what I mean? Like it was so conceptual back then, and has been until relatively recently, that lot for mass use. But now it's really starting to motor. Yeah. So I'd be surprised if you don't see it.
It kind of needs to be used at the time of the creation, really. That's the ideal time. You want to be able to put something, or the point of release, really. But at the time that you release something, you kind of want to just put in all the details, and that's it. It's done. Yeah. And you never have to go back to it again. It says who's playing on it, who wrote it, who owns the recording copyright. All these things are there in black and white. Can't change it. It's in blockchain. And even if a guitar player, say, plays on one of your recordings, you haven't got to worry about trying to put his name on PPL and all this sort of stuff. It's there. It's embedded in this thing, and he'll just automatically get his few pennies, whatever it be, every time it gets played on even if it's like in Taiwan or something. That's the idea of it. That's the dream. It's so much better. Yes, indeed.
No, it's all very exciting, but I just want to say thank you both for joining Carol and I today to talk to us. It's actually been very insightful. You're both very lovely as well. It's nice to speak to people within the industry that are very personable, and it's not pressure.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, very lovely. So thank you.
And thanks for having us on.
Everything for the artist guides, all the links and all that will be added, so people know where to find you and contact you if they want to find out more, work with you. And James and Sean of the Artist Guides.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks Emily.
Appreciate it.